This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jennifer LaGrassa. Katarina is away. A first-degree murder conviction in the case of a Michigan man who killed his estranged Windsor wife is a huge victory for advocates concerned about intimate partner violence. CBC's Kathleen Sailors has our top story.
There's a guilty verdict in the killing of Sarah Boulay, but her loved ones say it doesn't mean closure.
I don't think there's any closure because we're not going to get her back, but we just want to move on and keep her memory alive and not have this trial sitting in the background.
Michigan man Brian Marbury was found guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Boulay, his estranged wife. A jury delivered the verdict in the Superior Court of Justice on Wednesday. Boulay was reported missing on May 30th, 2023, and was found buried in a shallow grave a week later. Marbury was arrested and charged. Cuso testified in the trial, telling the jury about the years of abuse she witnessed towards her daughter. Marbury showed little reaction when the verdict was delivered, just 5 hours after the jury was sent to deliberate. His lawyer says it's a disappointing outcome.
You may recall yesterday the judge told the members of the jury that in his opinion, the Crown's theory of first-degree murder was very thin. Those were his words. So I don't know. I respect the decision of those 12 people, but I do not understand it.
Marley couldn't say at this point whether they would pursue an appeal. Sylvie Gunther is the executive director of Hiatus House, a shelter for women and families. She says the decision to charge Marbury with first-degree murder sends a signal.
And we see this kind of response. It gives us hope that people are paying attention. Recently we made declarations of IPV as an epidemic throughout Windsor, Essex. And maybe that's had some impact, and maybe that's part of why we're telling the story a bit differently, and it's being recognized, and that this, first-degree murder charge came down.
It's really, really important that the government make that acknowledgement. It came from a coroner's inquest. It came from a panel that was studying other cases in other areas of the province. And I think that's a very important step forward for the government to recognize that intimate partner and gender-based violence is an epidemic in the province.
Marbury remains in custody and will be back in court in the coming months for sentencing. In Canada, first-degree murder carries a mandatory sentence of life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. Kathleen Sailors, CBC News, Windsor.
Windsor police and local healthcare providers have received provincial funding to upkeep some of their partnerships. In total, the Ontario government is providing more than $2 million. The bulk of that goes to the Windsor Police's problem-oriented policing unit, and that focuses on addressing crime in certain parts of the city, like the Glengarry neighborhood. The provincial cash will also support the crisis response team, which pairs a social worker with an officer, as well as the nurse police team.
We'll stay mostly in the core downtown, and we'll do some outreach, talk to people, see what they need, provide resources and referrals to the community, and then provide some basic medical care too. So I have a medical first aid bag. So if someone needed to come to the emergency room for something as basic as wound care, we can provide that to them in the streets and prevent that emergency room visit.
We go to calls where people are just struggling with anxiety or depression, maybe not suicidal, but they're just having kind of angry or behavioral moments that they need help to de-escalate in.
We're 80%, I'd say, proactive in getting ahead of things and deterring issues from becoming bigger issues for not only our units, but also the patrol responding officers, the frontline officers.
At the Windsor Police Board meeting in July, police then said that they're expecting to have a $2.5 million deficit by the end of the year. So while this new provincial funding helps keep these police teams going, the chief says it won't offset the budget.
It's not going to solve sort of the municipal issue of getting at a budget line, but it does mitigate some budget concerns. But if your question is, does this solve the city's budget challenges? No, it doesn't, but it does mitigate some of the challenges that we're facing. In the absence of this funding, I can tell you that we would struggle to keep our POP unit running, and that we would struggle to keep our nurse police team running the way it is, and we would most certainly struggle to keep our crisis response team, which covers something like almost 20 hours per day.
Colette Kennedy is here. Colette, a gorgeous day out there.
Yeah, beautiful conditions after a relatively cool start. I mean, not so bad in southwestern Ontario towards Windsor, but if you traveled away just a little bit, Kitchener, yes, below zero. So Kitchener, Waterloo, lots of regions, Peterborough, Muskoka, Bancroft, all below zero. So not too bad this morning at 8 a.m. It was 5 degrees, then up to 16. Nice afternoon, currently sitting at that 15 degrees. We do have clear skies. So tonight, still a frost risk, although we are not in the advisory. That's still in place, though, for many areas through southern and eastern Ontario. 5 degrees tonight. And how about tomorrow as we go into a southerly flow of the winds? A beautiful afternoon up to 19. I'll have the holiday weekend forecast when I come back.
That's great. Thanks, Colette. So we're getting our first taste of who wants to be the West End's new councillor. There's 15 names on the ballot, and the CBC's Chris Ensing joins us now at the University of Windsor, where 9 of the 15 candidates just spent a couple hours pitching their vision to students. Chris, what stands out to you?
It was very clear from the questions that were asked here tonight, Jen, that people want somebody on council who's going to address issues they believe are specific to Ward 2. That's transit. They want to find better and faster routes to the Huron Church Tecumseh intersection where there's commercial avenues for people to go and buy food and shop. They want to find somebody who's going to activate housing, the abandoned homes in this neighborhood, often something that comes up whenever we think about the election, and people want to hear what candidates will do about those. And they also want to see what will be done about crime in the area, saying that they feel as if there's more crime here than there are in other parts of the city, and they want their perspective or their possible councillor to tell them what they're going to do about it. Some through lines during all of this from the candidates that we heard tonight is that they promise to be a loud voice on council, that they feel the West End has been overlooked in recent years, but that's not because of the representation. They did say that they appreciated the previous councillor who resigned, Fabio Costante, which is opening up this seat. Now, he left council to now run the Windsor-Essex Community Housing Corporation, which opens up this seat on council. It'll be a 1-year term for whoever gets elected. Now, this is specifically for Ward 2, so you're thinking anybody from Crawford out to Ojibwe Park, Riverside up to Tecumseh or EC Row. Those are the people who will be voting in this election, deciding who will be Windsor's next councillor.
Yeah, really great for people to have that FaceTime with those candidates. What do voters need to do to vote in this election?
Yeah, one of the big things they need to do is really know whether or not they're eligible to be somebody who can fill out a ballot. Again, if you go onto the website, you can fill in your details on the City of Windsor's website, which will tell you if you're on the list. If you live on the West End and you're not on the list, you just need to show up on voting day. The first time that you can vote, the advance polls open next week. That's Friday and Saturday. You can vote in person. You just have to show up with ID that shows that you're eligible to vote. To be somebody eligible to vote, you gotta be a Canadian citizen, 18 or older, who rents or owns land in the West End. Now, whether or not people show up to vote is gonna be a big deal when we think about this election. By-elections typically have lower turnout, and on the West End, it has lower turnout in general elections than the other wards. We're talking less than 20% of people who were eligible to vote that actually cast a ballot in the last general election, Jen. So a lot of people are going to be trying to drum up who is going to actually win. Could come down to just a number of votes, a small handful.
Okay, thanks, Chris. CBC's Chris Ensing. A new study reveals nearly 3/4 of young Canadians are turning to AI tools like ChatGPT for schoolwork. They say it's improving their grades and becoming a go-to for some projects. But it's also raising fresh concerns among students and educators alike. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson explains.
In the almost 3 years since ChatGPT exploded into the mainstream, AI has become a well-used resource by students. A new study by KPMG of 684 Canadian students in post-secondary institutions found 73% said they use generative AI for their schoolwork.
The students are definitely realizing that there is benefit to use the tools, that it can support their ability to respond to the queries that are being asked.
Students said they use AI for research, editing assignments, or writing essays. Still, there are reservations.
It is still surprising to see that nearly half the students say their critical thinking skills are deteriorating because of the use of AI.
That ambivalence came through when we talked to some students across the country.
I wouldn't say that I'm using AI tools specifically for legal research because in the field of law, AI is known to hallucinate more often and produce wrong results, such as cases that never exist.
AI can be a resource, especially with summarizing notes and etc. But yeah, I think I say I'm a bit concerned about work ethic, being able to think for myself in an exam setting.
This professor of education says it's up to instructors to set up clear expectations around what's acceptable use of AI.
Every generation of students has some cheaters, but it also has lots of people that want to learn either by doing it entirely themselves or sometimes with a little assistance. So we still need to figure out what counts as ethical assistance, if you will, or tutoring, but that's not up to the kids to decide. That's up to us to decide.
She says that the way assignments are constructed and how students are assessed may need to change to adapt to the rapidly advancing technology that students are already using. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Cardiologists and heart surgeons in Quebec are warning of some staff shortages that are contributing to surgery delays and even deaths in the province. They've been reminding the government about the need for more perfusionists who help keep patients alive during heart surgery. CBC's Alison Northcott has more.
My mom was an absolute joy to be around.
This Thanksgiving marks 1 year since Debbie Fuster died while waiting for triple bypass surgery in Manitoba.
I drove to my mother's house really quickly, obviously. I actually got there before the ambulance did, and she had passed away from a heart attack.
It's the kind of death on a surgical wait list cardiologists and heart surgeons in Quebec are warning about.
80 people have died in the last year and a half waiting for their surgery. So that is awful.
And that's just in Quebec. He said it's largely due to a shortage of staff like perfusionists. They play a crucial role during heart surgery, running the machine that does the life-sustaining work of the heart and lungs. The shortage affects other parts of Canada too, linked to higher salaries available in the U.S., an aging workforce, and the intense demands of the job, says this perfusionist.
Well, you're essentially working on a cardiac surgeon's schedule, and with that, it becomes a challenging position to maintain over time.
Toronto's Michener Institute, one of 3 Canadian training sites, is working with the Ontario government to increase enrollment from 16 to 38 by 2027.
The importance of this role within the operating room is significant, and we believe that there's an opportunity here to meet that demand.
Debbie Fuster's son still doesn't know why her surgery wasn't scheduled or if it was linked to staffing. Still, he's pushed for change to ensure patients are informed about their wait time.
If we'd have known that my mom was going to be on a list for 2.5 months and she needed surgery in 3 weeks, we'd have done something about it.
In Quebec, the health ministry says patients waiting for heart surgery often have other serious health problems that could be related to their deaths, and says the perfusionist shortage accounts for just 1% of cancelled surgeries.
The associations of cardiologists and heart surgeons in Quebec plan to file an ombudsman's complaint because they say the province hasn't done enough to address the problem. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
At nearly 30 kilos, throwing this baby out with the bathwater may be very difficult. The Berlin Zoo is showing off its new baby hippo. His day is usually packed with enjoying showers, wiggling his ears, and of course, taking naps with his mother, Nayla. The 10-day-old was part of a twin, but his sibling died shortly after birth. Zoo officials say twins are very rare. It's just 1% of all hippo births on record. The yet-to-be-named baby is considered underweight by at least 10 kilos. Zookeepers hope he eats well and gains weight quickly. A look outside there. It was an amazing day if you got the chance to go out. Colette will be back with us after for what's in store for the long weekend. So stay with us, and we've got more news coming up. After more than 2 years of war, a ceasefire deal has been agreed in Gaza. Israel has signed it, as well as Hamas. The Israeli hostages still alive are expected to be freed within days. CBC's Cameron McIntosh has the story.
In the center of the Gaza Strip, celebration in this refugee camp. And on the streets of Deir al-Balah, optimism. My feelings are all over the place. You can't imagine, says Mahmoud Abdullah. Displaced 9 times, like most here, he's hoping this deal sticks. In Tel Aviv's Hostage Square, Israelis also cautiously celebrating.
Before it was prayers for hope, and now it's prayers for thankful prayers.
Just days after the second anniversary of the October 7th attack, where Hamas slaughtered more than 1,200 Israelis and kidnapped more than 200 others, igniting a war that has left about 67,000 Palestinians dead, according to Gazan officials. Israel and Hamas are agreeing to phase 1 of a complicated U.S.-led peace plan. Israel will begin to withdraw from Gaza in exchange for the remaining hostages, 20 believed to still be alive.
I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East.
Bombing continued this morning in Gaza. The ceasefire expected to come into effect over the next 24 hours. Amid some big questions, will Hamas disarm? Who will govern Gaza? Will this last? Francois de La Rochelle is a former Canadian diplomat in the Middle East.
I would say no, it's the easiest stage of that of this long process that is ahead.
Aid groups are waiting to surge in supplies. Canada among the countries supporting the deal.
We're encouraged, but it's the first phase, and there's more to come.
Thank you, Trump.
Meanwhile, on both sides, there's credit for the self-proclaimed deal and peacemaker Trump, who says he will visit the region to help start a fragile and fraught process. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
U.S. President Donald Trump is receiving bipartisan praise for the Israel-Hamas deal. But there's also recognition of how fragile it is as he plans a trip to the region. Katie Nicholson has more.
Countries stepping up and putting up a lot.
At a morning cabinet meeting, praise for the U.S. president from his Secretary of State.
One day, perhaps the entire story will be told about the events of yesterday, but suffice it to say, it's not an exaggeration that none of it would have been possible without the President of the United States being involved.
Donald Trump, optimistic.
I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East.
Democrats voiced cautious support.
It's a very, very positive step in the right direction. We're all hopeful that this agreement will be finalized.
Including former President Barack Obama, who posted on X, "We should all be encouraged and relieved that an end to the conflict is within sight." The deal? Brokered after intense meetings with Arab and Muslim countries and a White House visit with the Israeli Prime Minister. Through it all, Donald Trump taking a lead role.
The question is, will Donald Trump, having now proclaimed himself the peace president, having, I think, reasonably claimed credit for this agreement, will he now be personally invested in making sure it continues now that it's very much connected to his own legacy?
Not just his legacy on the line, but perhaps a Nobel Peace Prize, which Trump has made no secret of coveting. An Israeli farmer even plowed an endorsement into this field. Even his critics say if the deal succeeds, it may happen.
He desperately wants that Nobel Peace Prize. It won't happen tomorrow for a lot of reasons. But if this process continues, he may have a better argument next year. My only point here is we've been at this stage several times before, including, as I said, as recently as January, and the ceasefires have broken down.
But so far, this deal holding enough for the U.S. president to plan a trip to the region, just as the hostages are due to be released and as aid is expected to flow into Gaza. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
We're going to be right back with Colette, and I might have another bird video for you coming up. I don't know. You got to stay tuned to find out. So it seems to be a bird week for me because those are some turkeys right there that I saw today on the sidelines of the construction site for the new Costco. And I thought it was very fitting ahead of Thanksgiving weekend to see them gathered there like that. Colette, the birds are flocking to me this week. I don't know what's going on. The blue heron yesterday, as we know. Now a bunch of turkeys. And so I was telling you, I thought it was a gaggle of turkeys, but apparently the right term is actually a rafter of turkeys.
I would not have got that. I would not have come close to that.
Yeah, I know.
A rafter. Okay. Which makes me think, you know, up and then turkeys don't fly in the whole, you know, so it's like that doesn't compute for me.
It's unusual.
But okay, now I'm educated. Thank you. Just in time for the holidays here. So let's go ahead and show you what's going on weather-wise as we're approaching this holiday, because could have some little changes. Now, it depends where you're going to be. If you're staying in southwestern Ontario, not quite the same if you're going to be traveling to family or friends elsewhere. So there goes that one trough that we had in the cooler air. We're going to get into this ridge, which is our weather for tomorrow. Again, some beautiful conditions and sunshine and warmer temperatures. It's this trough right here. This is an upper low, and that could be spoiling some plants in a few spots. So I'll get into that here in just a second. Frost advisory, again, does not extend back to Windsor, but very close by, and we still have the frost risk. So tropical plants, if you have any of those kind of ferns or things that you tend to put out in the summer and then you bring back in, or palms, I mean to say, now probably, or it's getting close to that time, you need to be doing that or protecting them. So our current readings, still sitting mid-teens. Our winds are more of an easterly direction. Tomorrow they become more south to southwesterly, and that's why that's going to help too with the temperature and the warming up into the afternoon hours. Now, we'll have that sunshine, the clear skies tonight, the sunshine tomorrow as well, but what happens is then that upper low starts to pull in some cloud cover later in the day tomorrow. A chance of showers, light in nature, probably not too much to it, kind of rotating through Friday night into Saturday morning. After that, it should be to the east of southwestern Ontario, but there are some shower chances both Saturday and Sunday there. So keeping that in mind, we'll have a slim risk if you are going to be traveling. Just know how it could have an impact. Slight chance here for Saturday. Look at those temperatures, and something else to note, that the overnight lows go back into the double digits. So tomorrow, a cooler morning to start things off, and then it gets milder.
Okay, not too bad still. It looks good. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. Have a good night.